Kenneth Bennett of Manor Castle.
My lords, it's a pleasure to follow the two noble lords German and Craighead and thank both of them for already setting out detailed consideration of this rather long list of amendments. The length reflecting, I think, the levels of concern in the House about this area of the bill. I speak to a series of amendments in this group to which I attach my name, numbers 15 and 64 in the names of the noble Lady Baroness Finlay of Llandaff, and 16, 41, 48, 74 and 99 in the name of the noble Lady Baroness Hayter of Kentish Town. I apologise to your Lordship's House for not taking part in the second reading of the bill. My name was down to speak, but I was caught up in the collision with the Medicines and Medical Devices Bill, which also prevented me from taking part in earlier committee days. And that's not the only crucial political collision we're encountering at the moment. As a former newspaper editor, I'm well aware of the problem of the media really only being able to focus on one issue at a time. I sought to place an article about the Medicines Bill with a major news outlet about the environmental issues in it, and was told, no, we've already run too many articles on this bill. And we are, I think, at risk of falling into the same problem with this bill. I can identify at least three major areas of issue that could, in normal circumstances, expect attention from the serious media. Getting top billing, rightfully, are the Part 5 issues that we expect to get to on the final day of this committee's deliberations. And the clauses, and the second area that would normally get massive amounts of attention are the clauses that provide powers even greater than that of Henry VIII, as the noble Baroness Lady Andrews and the noble Lord Hope of Craighead spoke to so powerfully with others earlier today. Being a former journalist, I have a shorthand for that. It's Henry VIII on steroids. And I share Lord Jermyn's liking for the amendments that wipe those out altogether. But the third serious issue, and probably the one that's got the least attention, but not the least of them, are the also crucial issues of democracy and the rule of law, is the riding roughshod over devolved powers, indeed almost wiping out devolution altogether, that these amendments seek to address. Those in the name of the noble Baroness Finlay refer to obtaining consent on several crucial matters in this bill. Those in the name of Baroness Hayter refer to seeking consent. The former wording would seem to be the stronger, the latter at least is a fallback, which is why I've attached my name to both. Now, the debate today has already ranged through both real pig semen and metaphorical biscuits, but I'm going to introduce another image of a bridge. And yes, this is a hypothetical bridge. Unlike our Prime Minister, building bridges in unlikely and unwanted places is not a passion of mine. And I'm drawing here on the historian Joan Wallace Scott, who in her recent work on the judgment of history reflected on those who assume that history is progressing forwards towards a future golden age, talk about building bridges to that new age. But behind that is an assumption that the traffic's only one way. That's certainly been the expectation and desire of the peoples of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. They've been streaming across the bridge in the direction of the control of their own communities and their own lives through the mechanisms of democratic parliaments and assemblies that reflect reasonably accurately the views and wishes of the people, as well as being far closest to where those people live. Consequently, to an increasing degree, they've taken different paths on social, environmental and many other issues. That, after all, was the point of devolution, to diverge. And I don't believe in an earlier debate there was a question put to the government about does it acknowledge the benefits, the advantages of divergence, and I'm not sure that that has been answered. And of course, particularly in the case of Scotland, with a separate legal and educational system, this nation has always retained its very distinct identity, something my amendments 79 and 106 address later. And I'd also make the point that I don't believe anyone else has raised is that devolution is not just an issue for the three nations of the UK. It's also the hope of many parts of England, from Cornwall to Yorkshire, to head in the same direction with assemblies or parliaments of their own to take back control from far away, distant, couldn't care less Westminster. This bill could severely hamper the freedoms they seek, as well as being an enormous flood sweeping away the existing structures of devolution. Now, Greener UK has pointed to a simple, very clear example. I was recently commenting on the extremely limited, indeed, one would have to say derisory, plastics ban introduced in England, covering 3 items. Yet the Welsh Government is proposing to introduce a ban on the sale of 9 separate single-use plastic items. Unfortunately, it would seem under the provisions of this bill, and I'd be very interested in the noble lords, the ministers' comments on this, they could only ban the production of these in Wales, while the sale of the items made elsewhere in the UK would be forcibly allowed by this legislation. The Welsh Government has said, and I quote, "A ban that could only apply to Welsh-produced plastics would undermine the policy and render it ineffective." I can only agree. I also note that the Centre on Constitutional Change reports the UK bill includes a much more restricted set of public policy justifications for exemptions than the market access principles that is permitted under the EU law. So again, powers are being taken away from devolved administrations. This is not take back control. It's, as the people of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland might have hoped for, this is control being lost. Brexit having been imposed, of course, upon two of the three nations by the English nation's size of population. The House is really dripping with irony today, with, as earlier noted, the government and their allies lauding the benefits of free unencumbered trade while slicing that off from the continent. I look forward to hearing the minister's answer on how dictatorship from Westminster over the other nations squares with taking back control. Thank you, my lords.
The next speaker